Hi everyone. On yearly basis, in the beautiful location of Cascina Bellaria, in the northwest part of Italy, in Piedmont, that is also the main site of the Hariom Yoga School, there is a beautiful event called Bliss Beat Festival, an event that gathers together a lot of yoga lovers and not only, that proposes different type of trainings to be enjoyed. In 2020, the owner of the school, Marco Mandrino, took the opportunity to present the release of his new book, Yoga Beyond Yoga. The presentation that you will be seeing in a few seconds has been recorded in Italian. I humbly translated in English so that the content can be also understood and maybe further shared among the English speakers community. Enjoy. This book wants to be the attempt to represent the philosophy of the school, that is Yoga Beyond Yoga. By Yoga Beyond Yoga, we intend in this case the practice seen in its holistic way. The objective, and by objective of the practice, I intend the practice seen from the perspective of the person who wrote the book, that is me, is something that should help us in living better. People should do something or practice or anything that they would like to name practice. It's okay, it can be physical, meditation or whatever you want, but the idea in the book is to provide with an instrument that allows us to live a better life. Obviously, if someone wants to see in the word yoga something related to religion, then the story changes completely. And I'm not saying that the religious interpretation is right or wrong as such. However, we would tackle the subject from a completely different perspective. That is not what the book is about. From the religion's perspective, some can put in the word practice a lot of other things, but the target would be totally different. In this case, the target would be to get closer to the so-called God or a particular figure. From the book perspective, the aim of the practice is to try to have the best possible life. The first thing to have this best possible life, I personally believe, is to set up a sort of an ideal mind. For instance, when you watch a movie, read a book and so on, you tend to fall in love with some characters and roles that you like or maybe are a sort of inspiration. However, for reasons that I hardly understand, we tend to lose that characters on the way. We like them in a moment and then we drift apart when we leave and we tend to be closer to somebody else. I consider that the first quality that we should have as individuals should be to set up an ideal and stick to it, an hero of a book or a movie that really touches as a role or a character, and then tell ourselves, well, I could try to live in a similar way as the character I love. Obviously, we often live in a different completely life compared to the characters we fell in love with, and this can be because of a different timing, but we should aim to represent their qualities. Already with this in mind, our lives would be better and the world overall would be a better place, and it doesn't take much. I'm not saying that you should fall in love with the character I like. It's enough that you stick with the one you like. And I notice that often we find thousands of excuses not to stick with that character, but in the end, these are only excuses. In addition to that, if those excuses would lead us to a positive result, then there is nothing to say about it. But most of the times we realize that the result is not better than the reality. Again, if someone believes in any sort of religion, then it's another story. We may say, I do behave like this, even if I don't like my life, because at the end of it, within the religious frame, I believe there is paradise or nirvana. However, if we skip the all religious thing, we realize that we only have one shot in this life. Then the question kicks in. Why not taking advantage of this life? Why keep trying to be someone we don't like while we could be closer to the character we do like? Admiring a hero, but in reality attempting to be somebody else. It is therefore important to observe ourselves, see our life from far and tell us, how do I live it? How much I like the character I try to be close to? If the reply is, I like it a lot, then it's fully fine, and maybe you also feel good about it. If on the contrary, we don't like it, it's not something that shall put us down. On the contrary, it should be the trigger leading us to do something else, something different. In particularly when we are not happy with our life, in general terms, I would say, it's then the time to change. It's the perfect moment to do something. I'm personally not a believer. I'm so far from any religious belief. However, according to the karma law, if we want to refer to preceding or past lives, what we live now is what we have done so far, up to the moment. And if we don't like what we have done so far, the only way to aim to a better tomorrow is the change. I might say now something that is so clear to you, but simplicity can be the answer. The issue is that if we want to transform our own lives into our piece of artwork, then we have to do something. It often happens to admire artists, musicians, or whatever else, simply because they are famous. Why keep holding on the idea that living better is only combined with being famous? Why necessarily need the consent or the approval of others that is typical of our time? Living better has nothing to do with others' approval. Some can enjoy an amazing life without being known by others, and I shall say that this is the reality in most of the cases. If we get rid of this idea, living well implies nonetheless a sort of training, and the book is about training in a holistic way. I realize that the term holistic has been abused, in particularly now, and often we do not analyze in depth its full meaning. In practice, it is to be able to train someone's mind the same way as the body, and the basic holistic idea is that there is no difference between the two. Whatever the physical act, it will have an impact on the mind. Whatever I read and listen to will influence how my body reacts, without any borders between the two. The idea of the book is not to create a full training, but the idea of a complete training. The completeness is personal, and it depends on how you want to intend it. The book was created in relation to a yoga school, and a part covers yoga techniques. It would have been something else by simply change the topic, for example, functional training or fitness in general. The technical aspect of yoga is tackled by detailing the history of the Hari Om Yoga School, and also because this book is used for practical reasons as a text when we organize teacher trainings. But we would like to open a window in the yoga room and see what else is outside. There is a world of other disciplines with different characteristics, and some with a different perspective, and we can only embrace them by observing the self. We could decide to use yoga, for example, on a different day, and on the other day, a different activity. And then we can keep doing this to reach a personal balance. The part dedicated to the body covers different disciplines in the book. We are sharing now, during the Bliss Beat Festival, a moment dedicated to yoga, the yoga perspective, but I would like to highlight that yoga misses loads of useful elements. The sharing with the other aspects, for example. Yoga, it's a personal practice. It misses the yang side that martial arts can enhance, but mostly yoga is very structured. So it lacks the possibility to let go in a dance, for example, or in a natural movement of the body. Or it lacks elements of running, that is a primordial element of the life of the human being. Additionally, jumping to a different subject that is typically me, I believe that in order to feel good as human beings, we should be closer to the observation of our animal side. That we were prior to civilization and look at how we used to move and try to experiment this aspect of life again and again. Our unbalanced way of living lays in the fact that we lost connection to our animal side, and then we can practice to recover this aspect again. The book refers also to nutrition and lifestyle because they are both linked to well-being. However, the book doesn't list the do's and don'ts. It simply highlights the way we nurture our body, and then we can enhance a certain aspect or some characteristics. And I leave it free to you to choose the way, to choose the thing that you like, to adapt your nutrition according to your personal choice. I do not refer on purpose to ethic, as ethic is a part of a system of beliefs that is personal, and I don't want to interfere in your personal choices. We know that whatever we eat, it also influences the way we are, physically and mentally. After this overall description of the book, I would like to focus on the philosophical aspects, as I consider that different types of training are good for the body. Philosophy should be the basis to enjoy life at its most. Unfortunately, philosophy in the last century has been totally misused and the core messages have been lost. I think we should go back to the Greek philosophy, that is, practical, simple, where there are only few instructions and ideas to be put into practice into the real life. Everything useful in philosophy shall be used in the daily life. If you cannot use it, then it's not worth it. And it just gains its place back into society, not to be seen as not necessarily, well, indeed, is needed to improve the quality of life. And to my perspective, it is, and I invite you to consider this statement. It's stupid to simply say, I have my own life philosophy. What does it mean? It's like finding yourself in front of a white canvas pretending to be a painter. I would advise instead to read a bit and listen and assess the content of philosophy, learn from it, few things and put them in practice. In the book, as I often do also when I teach theory, I use yoga as a simple excuse to talk about philosophy. Personally and honestly, I'm not much interested about Indian philosophy. I had to study, but I'm not in love with it. I was attracted, and in some ways I'm still, by the Zen philosophy, but lately by what I call pro-Stoicism, as I believe personally to be in constant change can improve the quality of our lives, and I invite you to continue to discover yourself. And you can do that by reading books or discuss with other people, listen, raise doubts, and conduct a personal research of your own way of living. How do I feel? Does it work or not? Well, if it doesn't work, just put it aside. It may work for me, but not necessarily for you. You choose and experiment the philosophy of a particular book by yourself. The good philosopher is the one that just provides tips to be developed and searched. I'm not telling you to jump on a book and end up being annoying and back to square one. If a book is boring, it's boring, full stop. And it's not good for you, and then put it away. There are thousands of other options. Being bored means literally be bored. Don't be stubborn and move on. There are also other means like podcasts as alternative to books in our times. Yoga Beyond Yoga, the book, thanks also to the idea of the editor, is a 4D book. Not only in paper, but contains a code providing access to videos explaining the different steps leading to the construction of a pose. My name, Marco Mandrino, is on the book. However, I'm not the only author. It's only done because of practical reasons. Loads of teachers contributed directly and indirectly, and I have been helped by them in this path when drafting the book. I presented during the Bliss Beat Festival because I consider it's the perfect occasion, because this event covers different practices, and during these days we can be the symbol of well-being. We all represent what the book wants to deliver. I simply invite you to try to live the bliss, literally, on daily basis, in terms of pleasure. And for whatever reason, this may not happen sometimes because we don't have all good days or negative days. And this is not due because of somebody else's fault. It is because you are not doing something. We are our own life creators, and if something is not going fine, we are the only ones be able to change it. And we are also the only one that created that bad situation. It doesn't mean to erase the daily problems. If you, for example, step on shit, it will smell anyhow, even if you study philosophy or enjoyed a good yoga practice. But maybe we can try to see and have a different approach. You may laugh about it instead of entering this mental masturbation or path that leads to nothing, but only to give the responsibility to somebody else. Say that, I thank all the people that on regular basis attend the Bliss Beat Festival, in particular to the teachers that keep holding classes, as well as the musicians and their work that accompany us during these days. And as I always say, well, we see each other around.